All right, well, can y'all hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. I feel like we were walking up for an award show or something. That was fun. Thank you all for joining us here today. Sarah Franklin, the CEO of Lattice.
Jonathan Neman, CEO of Sweetgreen.
And we're gonna have a conversation today, and let's just kick it off going. And so what's top of mind for you coming off that incredible conversation about CEOs and brands and what you need to listen to? Like, what's top of mind for you?
You know, we're all living in extraordinary times where, you look at the news today and the world is changing so rapidly, both the consumer landscape for us as a consumer brand, but also the technology landscape, and how we create a culture inside of our organizations to embrace that change and lead that change is, especially with all that's happening with AI, is something that's very top of mind for me. How about you?
For me, I mean the same. So you're B2C, I'm more B2B, technology company. We manage like people and their performance. And in the age of AI, it's ever more important that you care about people first. Jonathan and I were chatting backstage around how we both share that philosophy. And being a part of the tech world, there's so much going on right now. So it's not just culture, but innovation and keeping people sane through the noise, right? Yeah. So what do you, there's a lot going on between society, politics, business, economy. What do you listen to every day?
So, there is a lot of noise out there, and trying to kind of see the difference between the signal and the noise is challenging. And so I think I kind of break it into, three ways I look at it. One is consumer behavior. And really, that we can measure, we can see where consumers are going, actually, and how they shop with their feet. The second is the cultural energy, and that one is much harder to grasp the data. Oftentimes, even when we look at focus groups and surveys, I tell my team, you're looking at the middle of the bell curve, and that's not necessarily where the world is going. And so on that, you really have to kind of parse through for us where the consumer or the employee is going, and the data may not give you that answer. And then there's like the economic reality and the political pieces to it, whether that be things like tariffs or technological shifts. And so we try to bring all that together. For us, we have a philosophy at Sweetgreen of balancing art and science. We believe that all great consumer brands find a way to do both, right? You need the art for us is the food, the soulfulness, the theater, the hospitality. It's really the product is the art. The science is how we scale. The science is the data, the technology, how we measure and do all of those sorts of things that allow us to actually scale what we do and make money. And the question is, how do we bring those together in a beautiful marriage and integration? Because a company with all art and no science can be a great one restaurant company. A company with with all science and no art has no soul. And so, over our 18-year history, we probably started all art and maybe swung it a little bit too far to more science, and really now trying to find that beautiful mix, especially as technology's gotten more commoditized. I think this has been even a bigger question. There was a long time, from 2010 to 2020, technology was actually a competitive advantage for us. Just as simple as thing as digital ordering was something that set us apart from the competition. March 6, 2020, that competitive advantage went away in one day. The whole restaurant world became online, and what we had spent so much time and money building up became commoditized. And it brings you back to what are you at your core? And a lot of people used to say, Sweetgreen, a technology company. I used to always say, we're not a technology company. We leverage technology to bring our experience to life. But the technology, every new wave will get commoditized. And so it really does come back to the soul, the mission, and the art of the organization.
Yeah, it's the word balance, I think, is very important right now, and especially in the world we live in. At Lattice, we also like to make that intentional choice, whether it's art and science or technology people, but to keep everything in balance. And it's ever more critical as we go forward. It's interesting, you mentioned, milestone moments. from 2020, what it meant for your business. We look at what's happening right now with AI as one of those milestone moments. And it's interesting being in this room because you rewind back to early 2000s, other milestone moments like the creation of Facebook and social media, or the creation of mobile phone technology. Two incredible innovations that at the time were very transformative, and we asked ourselves, like, or we looked at all the opportunity. We were so excited about the democratization of voice, of access to the internet, and we didn't take the time as we brought these technologies into our companies to ask ourselves, like, what harm can it do enough? And had we then known that we would end up as an anxious generation or an addicted generation, we might have chosen somewhat differently. And it's why as CEOs, I think balance is such a great word, because we have to look at the how can it be helpful, but also how can it be hurtful. And as you bring in technology, whether it's mobile ordering or AI, which is what we're doing a lot with now, that milestone moment, how do we make sure that we as CEOs drive to a more utopian than dystopian outcome? And I think balance is, I love talking to other CEOs. It was, not everyone tries to achieve such balance. So I do think that's important for us to do. I'm curious your thoughts on how you have achieved balance.
I think it really starts with the culture and the talent of the team. And I think AI is changing this a lot. So, as you scale, you start to bring in technical experts. But in the world of AI, is that going to matter as much, or is it going to be more about taste? So the big conversation we're having is, do we have enough people with taste? And it used to, I started Sweetgreen when I was 21 years old in college. And we just had I was the customer. I was kind of living amongst our customers in this like cultural zeitgeist, and had just an intuitive finger on the pulse for what the customer wanted. And I'm now 40 years old, and I'm not in that world the same way. And that world is been kind of fragmented there. That monoculture that once existed is very different. So it used to be, one of the big things we did when we were starting out is we threw a big music festival. No like strategy or data would have told us throwing a 20,000 person music festival for for a company that sells healthy food was a good idea. But it was this out there idea that like we could connect to culture in a way through music and live events that can create a brand bigger than our business. And it worked. Now I can't, the company cannot depend on myself and the founders to figure out what that next thing is. What is cool? Because the things, in my age, and I have kids, like it's maybe not what Gen Z is into.
I'm 40 is new 30, you know that.
But so now I need, I told I have a new CMO, and one of the reasons I really was excited about her is she had this good balance of art and science, and actually I tested her on taste. I walked the streets of New York with her to see did she see the world the way I saw? And how could she create a culture and lead creatives? Because leading creatives is very different than leading like analytical types of people. And recently we talked about we need more Gen Z people. Like Gen Z, we need our Gen Z whisperers that know what's going on, have their finger on the pulse, and can help guide us to those next kind of breakthrough things.
Can they tell you what 6'7" or 67 or whatever that is?
I learned about that through South Park.
Yeah.
And then I asked my nephews, and they're like 6'7", and they couldn't explain it to me, and so I still don't understand.
I don't understand it either. We're the smartest people in the room here. Can you explain it to us? No. See.
Yeah, so no one gets it. But I'll give you another example. A couple of years ago, we saw a very small but growing conversation in just tiny communities around seed oils. You guys know what seed oils are?
What?
Seed oil.
Oh, seed oil.
Seed oil.
Okay, like avocado or.
It would be like canola oil, sunflower oil versus extra virgin olive oil, okay. And it became this it wasn't the conversation as today where you have the president and RFK talking about it and it's like become a massive thing, but it was in these like tiny little communities, but very influential communities. And we surveyed our customers, like, if we went seed oil free, would you care? And the percentage of people that heard about seed oils were like high single digits. We made the announcement and it was huge. Goes viral, and what turns out is those like 10% of people are the leaders that everybody else follows. And it was one of those things where the data was never going to give you the answer that getting rid of seed oils was going to be such a big thing. You now fast forward 2 years, it's actually become politicized, unfortunately, where it shouldn't be. It's just eat more olive oil versus canola oil. But it was one of those things by just like the data alone wouldn't tell you. You had to be in the right communities and kind of listening to leaders in those communities to see where those trends were going.
I think that that's another interesting trend for this group here is just the amount of misinformation and how hard it is to get accurate information and how easy it is to trust technology that so confidently gives you information as though it is truthful and accurate. And guilty as charged of being like, ChatGPT, what should I do? And it tells me, and this is also why this is so important, I think, right now, as we're bringing these technologies in, because, you know, the data, we can always find data to tell us what we want it to tell us, right? And as CEOs, we have to make decisions that are not just data-driven, they are somewhat instinctual, somewhat in your gut, somewhat aligned to your values. Like, we're the people that have to make the choices, right? And this is something right now where AI is coming in, or we're making a choice in our investments between, do you invest in people or technology with your headcount dollars? And similarly, as you with their seed oils, Lattice as a company, we differentiated ourselves with that philosophy, which is similar to yourself, which is we put people first. You know, people first is very different than saying AI first. Like, everybody else is saying AI first, and we're building our company around how we put the success of people first, and it highly resonates with our audience and our buyer, and they want to do business with you because they're aligned with your values. I'm curious, like, it's interesting, details that you all may not know. 18 years, your co-founder, CEO. I'm a founder that took over from Jack Altman, who was the co-founder. It puts us in different, just different profiles. I'm curious, like, your thoughts on co-founder, CEO, and what that means, and I can share also for myself as founder or non-founder CEO.
I think there's pros and cons. I think it kind of boils down to how emotional it is as a founder CEO. It's almost like part of your identity, especially a consumer brand that, you know, in a lot of ways was built off of a belief on the world and on serving healthy food. So it's, you know, there's a kind of like an ideology built into the culture of, and really like centers the organization around the mission. But I think the flip side of it is sometimes we're stuck to those ideas that we have versus what does the consumer really want. And a lot of those, sometimes we're right. A lot of that has to do with our food ethos. Like, how important is it that we make everything from scratch in our stores, or that we serve organic or local food? Like, does the customer really care? Are they willing to pay more for that? Versus we care and we think that's important. That's part of the change we want to see in the world. And so I think the good side is it creates like a really mission-driven culture, and we're really like, you can feel that in the organization and our care for the product and the overall mission. The downside is there, you know, we like to say there's no sacred cows, but sometimes there are. And I think I wonder sometimes, like, what would an external CEO come do, like blank slate, like what decisions could they make if they were able to take the emotions totally out and that attachment to certain parts of the business out of it? What about
Yeah, I'm just imagining like certain foods, like a donut, if I put it in front of you right now, if you like you're also like not allowed to ever, cheat on that type of thing,
No,
publicly.
not true. I mean, our whole thing is we're there to help balance your lifestyle so you can have that donut.
I know, I'm joking. I was just thinking of the pressure. 'Cause as a CEO, like you are the face of as the founder, you're even more so the brand, the business, the idea, the everything. And so you have to live that, fully. And so I was just imagining like pizza, donuts. I imagine you don't eat them. I don't much either, but I love Sweetgreen.
Oh, thank you.
For myself, so I have been CEO of Lattice now for almost 2 years, and I came off of a 15-year stint at Salesforce where I worked for Mark Benioff and Brett Taylor, built a product there, their platform product, took it from 2 to 4 billion, was their president CMO. It was incredible run, and Mark Benioff, if you know, is an incredible leader and a visionary, and I worked for the founder that was a strong founder voice. And so Jack Altman was the founder of our company, Lattice, and the good thing is he and I were very similar values, and we pinky promised when I took over that we wouldn't have some drama of a situation. But it is different because you come in and you do see things that are like, oh, I might do that differently, or I think differently about that. And so there's two parts. One is managing the relationship with your founder, because number one, it's important. Number two, should be respectful. Number three, there's so much to deeply understand from the creation there. But then two, the employees that were solely bought into that founder vision. And when you have a change, it requires orientation. But it is valuable to come in and say, okay, this is how we take it to the next level, or this is an alternative approach. And so it's been a really great experience myself. To this room, I will confidently say, I came into the role thinking my job would be about 50%, actually about 80% like product, go-to-market, strategy, all of that, and about 20% G&A. And now I'm probably 50-50 in my time. So with my general counsel and my CFO and my head of people, I did not have the appreciation for the amount of work that goes on in the G&A side of the business. Yeah. And it's something which is, it's been a big learning for me as well. And then also managing the board, because we have people like, you don't have a boss. I'm like, you're right, I don't have a boss. I have 7 bosses. And all of that. But yeah, so in the world we're at today, so B2B, B2C, co-founder, transitioned CEO, now we're in this world of AI. What are your thoughts about this, and what are you doing at Sweetgreen?
I think it's so exciting. Maybe in another life I would have actually been in the technology industry, because I'm just so excited about how quick, how powerful some of these tools are. So we've been piloting and testing a lot of different ways to leverage AI in the business. So some are the obvious. For example, we work with Brett at Sierra, and we were the first restaurant company to put their customer service agents in place. As you've probably seen, they're incredible. They do great work. We've done some really interesting things leveraging AI in terms of selecting talent for our restaurants, because really what drives a great restaurant experience is building the right finding the right people. So think about it as almost like a money ball for talent. What's the right profile of a head coach? What's our GM? What do you look for in a team member, and how do you reverse engineer what types of questions you ask? So we have about 8,000 team members, and turnover in our industry is on average 180%. If you can get it anywhere below 100, you're like a hero. And so data can help you do that a lot, and AI is a really, really powerful tool in doing that. And so that's another way we use it. The biggest way, it's not really AI, but the biggest thing that we're doing to transform our business via technology is through automation. So we invested in something called the Infinite Kitchen about 4 years ago. And the Infinite Kitchen automates the assembly of our food. So the idea was, how do we really preserve the things about the Sweetgreen experience that people love while taking away the parts both for the consumer and the team member that can be challenging. And so what people love is the fact that we make our food from scratch and how we source it, so that doesn't change at all. We still do all of that in our restaurants. They love the hospitality piece, coming and talking to someone and being served. That in-between piece of like actually assembling the food can be very grueling. And if you've been to a Sweetgreen at lunchtime, you know that it can be, you can serve 1,000 people at lunch in a very short period of time, and it can be very stressful. And that job is a kind of a rote, repetitive, filling a bowl task. And so we built this technology called the Infinite Kitchen that totally automates the assembly of the bowls. It can do about 500 bowls per hour. It perfectly plates it. It's better from a food safety perspective and all these things. But the goal with it was, how do you bring the humans along? How do you make it a restaurant that both the consumers still feels like a restaurant and not like an automat? And how do team members and our employees in the restaurants, how do they enjoy working there better? And so one of the proudest things I have about this automation isn't the labor savings, which those are there. We run with about half the team size. It's the turnover of those team members is less than half than a classic store. And you go and talk to our teams that work in these restaurants who've worked in a classic store before, and they're not scared of this at all. They're like, bring it on. We absolutely love it. We are not putting it really in old stores. We're putting it in new stores, so we're not really replacing jobs with it. We're opening more stores with it. But if I told one of my team members that they had to now go from an Infinite Kitchen store to a classic store, they would probably quit. They're like, wow, the experience is so much better. So it's really now the focus on is, how do you build that experience for consumers that still feels soulful and feels like a restaurant, even though there's the automation piece. And the funniest learning is when you talk to consumers about the biggest difference is in the automation. They don't really notice the automation so much, but in the automated stores, you can order from a human or a kiosk. They think the biggest change was the kiosk. So the kiosk was more disruptive to the experience than the actual automation that is building the food.
Yeah, it's interesting because and for our company, we build technology and software, and this is actually, with AI, more of a people transformation than it is a technology transformation. For that reason, it's we're all used to talking to ChatGPT, but then if a robot were to be sitting here, it'd be like, whoa, that's, you're talking to a physical robot. That physical manifestation is jarring. And what we've done at Lattice, which is in a similar vein, is look at how AI can help scale people. And so it's really, whether it's about the rote work or whether it's about the work that you want to do that is strategic, that you want to be able to reach more people, they're a bit analogous to each other. And this is very important when you look at HR teams and legal teams and finance teams, especially when, especially in the HR world, they're not given the most budget, they're not given the best technology, and they're given the most complicated problems, which are people problems. And they're expected to just, hey, go solve it like that. And then combined with the landscape we've had, which is just in the last 5 years, we've had these huge whiplashes, which is like, go home from COVID, now come back to the office, be woke, don't be woke. It's like, hire everyone, now go fire them all. And it causes chaos. And so it's no surprise that when AI comes along, there's like not only this whiplash, but also a lack of trust of like, where is the company going? And not every company has had leaders like you that have been such as transparent and thoughtful stewards. And so what we've done, which I'm very proud of, is we look at how we, kind of give people superpowers with AI, similar to your infinite kitchen. You're investing in how people can do great things. But what I find very interesting is that the way that we're building technology, in some ways, I feel like the technology industry owes a deep apology to every consumer in the world, because it has been built for how we manage information. You think about information, it is something which is managed by 4 simple commands. Just create, read, update, delete. That's all that you crud. If you go to school, it's like you learn the 4 ways to manage information. And that's the way all the systems have been built, whether it's your email, whether it's your calendar, whether it's your fancy CRM application. It's built as ones and zeros that expect we as humans to interact with this information on that simple create, read, update, delete, format. And you take just one of those, like read, for example. Just because I create an email and send it to you and you read the email, it doesn't mean that you've heard me, doesn't mean you've listened to me, doesn't mean you understand what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that you're going to action what I'm asking you to do. And if you do action it, it doesn't mean that you're going to action it the way I want it to do. And it doesn't mean you're going to remember it the next day when I talk to you. And that's because we're human. Yeah. And I love that we are so beautifully, frustratingly, imperfectly perfect as humans. We're not programmable. We don't run on 4 simple commands. And this is why we need technology to build around that system of behavior, of how we have the conversations. What you did was you built the system of behavior around how your team worked, and then you automated the stuff that helped them be better. And that's the philosophy as we go in to this next era for AI, that through our governance and through our policies, we need to instrument them in ways, with all of your help, of how we can do this in a way which is mindful for how the people are successful.
How have you helped influence the culture for people to be open to these things in the world where maybe they think they may lose their job because of these things?
I think similarly to what you have done, which is you just go in and you focus on building trust. And you build trust through transparency. You said it so just confidently and straightforwardly, like, we have a workforce savings, but my people are happier and our business is growing. That means we will hire more people as we grow. But your business, you needed to structure it in a certain way, and you will create more jobs. Mm-hmm. I'm confident everyone out here is going to now forever be eating Sweetgreen. And because, you're aligned to the values of the company. And so that's what we do. That's what I hope that CEOs do, is their number one job is to build trust in their, not just their employees, but in their customers and their stakeholders, because we're making the strategies, we're implementing the strategies, executing it. But we have to be trustworthy. It doesn't mean that we have to be activists, but it means that we have to be, as I said, trustworthy. And so that's when you have somebody that's looking at technology, like, will this technology automate me out of a job? You say, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but here's the things that you can learn. Here's the other opportunities for you. And I'm going to be very transparent with you with where we're going.
Yeah.
Treat people like people.
Yeah.
Not like numbers on a spreadsheet.
Totally. We were talking earlier in the green room about how you spend your time, and you talked about visiting customers. Is that part of how you kind of build the intuition for the product in the company, or how do you fine tune the kind of that side of your decision making?
I think you and I would both agree. Yes, customers. You build your company based on what product or service or technology you can provide to your customers. If you're not listening to your customers, you are going to fail as a company. And customers are also where you have the most, especially the people that are your influencers, like the 10% you were saying earlier, they will be your biggest fans, but they will also be your biggest critics. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to listen to those voices. The panel earlier was sharing like the importance of having truth tellers, not just yes people around. That goes for customers too. You have to go to the happy customers, but go to the angry ones. You learn more there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one thing, I always remember looking at successful retail and restaurant CEOs. You see like the stories of like Jim Senegal at Costco, and it's like every day, and you walk in the warehouse. And I, of course, when I first started the business, I was in the restaurants every day, but then I got to a point where I was like, I have too much to do. I can't be in restaurants all the time. I have restaurants all around the country. Like, how do you do that? And then I realized that it's the key to the business. And so I have like a mantra at Sweetgreen is all the answers are in the restaurants. And I spend at least half of my time in restaurants. And sometimes it feels maybe unproductive because you're literally going to restaurants, you're sitting down with your manager, you're talking to your team members, talking to customers, and you're not working on big strategic things, but I'm shocked every time that like all of the answers are there. And that's how I fine tune our intuition and how do we create a culture that stays connected. I remind my team, we call ourselves a support center. And I remind us every day, I'm like, you guys make no money. You guys spend money, they make money. Our job is to support them, and we need to really understand the two most important stakeholders, our team members, and how do we make their jobs easier and better, and our customers, and then test our work, because all the things that we're doing up there, and designing menus and experiences and all these things, it all shows up in the four walls for us. And so I really like, especially, have you ever heard this term that I guess it's been around for a while, but I'm hearing more about, like touch grass? You hear people talking about like go touch grass in this world of like digital and AI? I just keep finding it more and more important because we're all sucked into our algorithm and we're looking at screens all day long. And the more we can go out and talk to real people, whether they be your customers, for me, my restaurants, your employees, I think that is going to be the art and that differentiates like that thought. Because like I'm sure you've tried to put your company strategy in ChatGPT. It gives you like it does a pretty good job on like the basic obvious strategy.
It does. And when it has context, it's a lot better. But yeah, so it's funny. One of these examples of touching grass, like, when I was talking to customers and I like to sit in them with their using our products and everything. And when you watch them, and it's typical user research, but you just go and they were like frustrated at certain points in the product, and you're talking to them about we're building AI and we're building all this incredible new features, doing all this innovation, like you said, these big strategic things. And they're like, this button doesn't work. This one little button, right? And I'm like, well, what do you want this button to do? And it's actually a product, it's a product philosophy I introduced when I was building product at Salesforce, which is before you go and build the thing, put the button on the page and see if people click the button, okay? If the button says, I don't know, new salad, or I don't know, whatever it is, and nobody clicks it, nobody wants that, Yeah. But then when they click it, say you get like a ton of clicks on the thing, you say, what did you expect when you came here? Some people may expect a sandwich, some people may expect a pizza, I don't know. But then they tell you, I wanted a pizza right now. Well, awesome, I have a lot of people clicking this button and tell me what they want a pizza. I'm gonna put a pizza button. And then all of a sudden people are like so excited. But what happens normally with technology is somebody has a big idea, like, you know what? I think people want Oreos, and I'm going to make this fancy Oreo customizable thing. You can have Oreos with strawberry, Oreos with banana, Oreos with blueberry, Oreos in different shapes and sizes. You have this complex thing, and then you put it out there, then nobody goes because you haven't asked your customer, what do you want, right? True story at Lattice, we did this. People just wanted a way to export to a PowerPoint presentation the results so they could show it to their executives. I was like, okay, we can do that. 3 days, done, people so happy. Yeah. So customers, yes.
Listen to your customers,
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm proud of us. We're gonna be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I guess you get to finish it though, right?
I get to finish it? Wow. Well, it's an honor to be here. It's so fun chatting with you. I think it's an exciting time, and we appreciate all of our Cooley friends for keeping us safe through these crazy times, especially as we're testing out new technologies and trying to do big transactions. And thank you all for being here.
Yeah, proud props to Cooley. They're our external counsel too, so thank you. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.